Hi, you're with Scott. I'm Ganji Kid. I'm the Grave Kipper. I'm the Super Chuffer. I'm with Steve of the Dead. This is Thus, a podcast about how people think, feel and behave. Today we're going to look at criminals who made appeals or did interviews, and it turned out that they were guilty of the very crimes that they were appealing to the public to help solve. I'm joined by forensic psychologist Steve of the Dead, who will give us insight into the minds of the people and how the police profile and attempt to catch them.
Year-old. Tonight, with the worry etched on her face, Shannon's mother appealed for her daughter's return.
Shannon, if you're out there, please, darling, come home. We love you so much. Me and your dad, your brothers, your sisters, everybody loves you. Your dad's missing you so much, Shannon. He's even out looking for you. Please come home, Shannon. If you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful princess daughter, please bring her home safe.
And it's kind of savage in a way because she does actually come across like as someone who's really suffering and struggling. Like her eyes
Did she not
are so
know?
dark.
Was she in on it?
Okay, so
I can't remember.
I'm not going to tell you first. I'm going to watch a few clips and then I'm going to take you through the case and give you the facts. And then, so just on her briefly, without the hindsight, and so therefore I'm not going to give you any of those extra clues. How do you feel she comes across in that? Like I was just doing my bit first, but how do you feel she comes across?
Please come home, Shannon. If you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful princess daughter, please bring her home safe.
Safe, yeah.
There's something about her saying, like her directly addressing Shannon and then saying if somebody's got her that sticks out to me. I don't know why, but like the idea of if you think your child has run away, you appeal to them. If you think they've been taken, you're appealing to the person who's taking them. So the idea that you'd address it to her first says you think she's run away, you think this isn't a serious, you don't think she's dead or anything, you think she's just run away and gotten lost.
Well, you hope
so
that.
You're appealing that way,
Yeah.
and you're hoping that, you're thinking that because that's like the best sort of situation in this scenario. It's better than thinking she's dead, so you're appealing that way. And that makes me think that's what you would do as a parent first if you thought she was still alive and out there. If you didn't have anything to do with this, you would put that out first. You would say, Shannon, come home. Please, if anybody has Shannon, please let her come home. Please bring her back. That. So
it's good, really. Like she doesn't seem guilty.
Not at first, no. Not at first. It's like her voice is wavering. It's not cracking, but it's not strong and clear either. There's emotion in her voice as well. She's held that quite well.
And I also thought, I mean, the thing is, she looks like a wreck, but then that might have been that she looked like a wreck before Shannon went missing, but she looks like a wreck, and she looked like a sort of, I mean, I know that she's like the estate and the level of like affluence / poverty, they're not in the best of situations, but she looked genuinely concerned and like she'd been through the mill, which you would think the mother of some child who's missing would be really, really upset and worried. So this is further. She's just been into Shannon's room here and she's upset.
I just can't do it. It's not like being there, but not being there.
So she's crying.
No, she's out there somewhere, not here where she belongs.
No matter what they're going through, like...
And then we get a bit of an interview with, like, basically it's levelled at him, like her current, like he's not the father of the kids or anything, but her current boyfriend or partner or whatever you call him, like it's then levelled at him.
That Shannon's stepfather, Craig, hit her hard enough to leave bruises.
Let me ask you directly, have you ever hurt a child? Would you ever consider hurting Shannon? No. Were you ever cruel to her?
No. There's even a lot of people what could back that up. There's a lot of my friends and family around here. So they even trust me with their kids. I look after my babes, we play, don't we? Same with our Courtney. I would never hurt anyone, basically.
Karen Matthews.
So there you go. That's them again, on a different one, saying they're innocent, or that they, he was the first one that they put the spotlight on like that, wasn't he? So does that ring okay with you? Does it seem seem fine?
He seemed a bit too aggressive, even when you're like convinced that you're innocent and you've done nothing wrong, and somebody's saying, I think you've done this thing that's wrong, and you're like, well, no, I haven't. You normally wait for them to finish speaking first. he seemed like too keen to get his point across, too keen to like, no, I didn't. I'm fine. There's lots of people here and they trust me with their kids. I didn't do anything. I've never hurt. Where most people would just be like, no, never touched it. No. And then you'd have to wait for the next question because, again, your truthfulness of your statement is enough for you when you believe that you're telling the truth. So you don't need to sort of like fill it with the idea that everybody else thinks you're trustworthy around their kids. So why shouldn't you be considered trustworthy around Shannon? So.
And then we've got her like this because this was a continued thing. This wasn't just like a one-off. Like this was in the news.
Yeah, no, it went on for a bit. Yeah.
So we've got her here as well.
And then she added a new detail to her appeals in the media.
I mean, do you believe the answer lies locally that somebody knows something? What do you feel?
Well, I think that somebody out there will know Shannon was supposed to probably know me as well. And I just want her home safe, really.
So they picked out that little moment amongst, others. Like she says it was someone local who knows her. So she started to let a few details slip, I guess. Again, how do you feel about this on first viewings? They had the T-shirts, didn't they? They had the whole campaign.
They had posters. Huge.
But at the same time, right? I'll get onto that in a minute. I'll get onto that other point in a minute. But yeah, what was your feeling on this? Yeah.
But I get carrying off the impression of being innocent very well, because again, you would hope as a parent of a child who's gone missing that they've not gone far, that they are local, and if they have been taken, you would hope that they've been taken somewhere local where they're going to be found and brought back quickly. So it seems understandable. See, I don't know about her. She seemed like she's a bit better in control of things. Her voice wasn't as emotional as it was earlier, So, but again, this is a little later on. So, if
you were, if I'd done a crime and you were doing the report on me, I might get away with it. But if I was doing the report, then I'm going to get thrown in prison because I'm very harsh on these people. I'm like, look at them on the telly, they did it. Like my nan says they did it, and like you're like, yeah, but and we also like, we could say that she could have been nervous, or we could, you're very,
you do get kind like these... that shit trained out of you. They do, like if you go like, actually, sir, I think they did it because of this. You just get a lecturer going back at you. Well, how do you explain this then? How do you explain this? What about if it was like this?
I suppose there's a danger then of someone like me then saying, right, okay, I'll find evidences to support my theory, which was initially a hunch, rather than finding evidences, creating a theory, and then going with whatever the evidences suggest. That's the sort of thing we're saying here, is we can't really go with our hunches necessarily. But I'm also asking, like, do you have a hunch here, or does she not give enough to give a hunch? Maybe because. Like
there's not enough giving me a hunch from her. Her partner gives me more cause for concern than she does.
In chat,
she's carrying the role of the mother of a missing child very well.
Tell me in chat, did you get a hunch when you were, saying in chat about the story Grip the Nation? Like, does anyone get a hunch off these people? Either way, you can tell me in chat there. That's Tracy.
He seemed too defensive. He seemed too defensive and aggressive. Like he's like, how dare you question me? Like, of course not. So,
and then story pans out.
Then again, I guess it's easier to carry off like being emotionally it's easier to carry off being emotionally distraught than it is innocent. He's just like plain and straightforward. Now, I want me because even that seems a bit suspicious under different circumstances. But at first, my daughter's missing. I just want you back. That's fairly easy to carry off, especially if you can generate tears, unlike the Philpotts. But that's another one for another time.
I suppose I'll tell you what as well.
Initially,
the consistency of it, like the fact that it was on the news all the time, and like they had to be there, in the news a lot. I'm just going to pick another window and use that for this. Is that they were then seen at many, like, you can't keep up the mask the whole time, can you, so to speak? So she's then seen not crying and not, and dealing with it in different ways, I suppose you would say, like just getting on with life or being angry or being whatever. And because the media spotlight was on them for such a lot of time.
A while,
they seem as less. Like you go and do that thing with the media first, and you seem really upset and really, and then after you see more and more of them, and they seem less like the first impression, maybe. So yeah, the Shannon Matthews case.
It's like it's a bit like I said before about talking and trying to talk a lie through. The longer you keep talking, the more likely you are to slip up, because the more you've got to remember, and the more likely you are to accidentally sort of like say, "Yeah, she was great," instead of "she is great." You know, it's that sort of. The longer this goes on, the harder it comes for them to sort of like maintain this impression of like the struggling, grieving mother hoping her daughter's okay, and the partner who's like got absolutely nothing to do with it. It's hard to maintain that the longer you go on. So
and so the longer it did go on, basically, the police just found her, didn't they? It wasn't like people on the news or people handing out flyers or anything like that happened. The police, through their own endeavour, searched the property of. It was quite a distant relative. It wasn't a blood relative of anyone particularly. It was Shannon's sister's uncle on her father's side, and of course her father is like absent from the family. I think again, yeah, you want to maybe we should get the Wikipedia up and just check this, because I'm just doing it off my top of my head. Shannon Matthews,
not great with dates. Fine, all right.
Yeah, I didn't get a degree because I couldn't remember any dates, and I could remember what they said, but they're not the dates and the people who said them. So what we're looking for here is discovery. The police found her. She was concealed in the divan bed. Yeah, it was just through police work. And so I've actually got as well, so that's what I wanted to show, under the bed. Copy that. Let's have this. Let's paste that and go. This is the bed that this is Shannon's bed that she was found under. So in this room there was a divan bed and the bed like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and what was happening was her uncle, who's not really her uncle, but friend of the family, you might say, uncle of one of her sisters, was keeping her drugged with trimazepam and other over-the-counter narcotics, and was just basically hiding her there. And the idea was there was a newspaper found in the room talking about the reward money, and so the idea was that they'd concocted a plan to drum up a reward and then split the reward money. And that was where Shannon was. She was hiding under the bed the whole time. It's a bit sad, really, because she's been drugged by a,
Yeah. She's been taken advantage of, captured and kidnapped by the people who she's supposed to trust, family and friends of the family.
But she was under the bed the whole time. Shannon Matthews. There was actually a famous football song, and it goes, "She's under the bed, she's under the bed, Shannon Matthews, she's under the bed." And we sing that at teams that from that area. At the time, but yeah. So with hindsight now, we can go back and look at the appeals, and we can then talk.
She looks like
this.
She's about to smirk there. It's not a good picture you've paused on.
Yeah. We could talk about this now a bit, and I thought this was going to be quite a fun one, but I might have wheeled out all my funny jokes already. But
okay, come on.
Let's look at her again doing a appeal. That's what I want. I want 144 on this. Here we go. This is her doing her appeal. Now we know that the whole time she knows where she is. Although she didn't. She said to the police she didn't know, wasn't part of it. But of course she did know she was part of it. And she'd come out. And
sign of the 9-year-old. Tonight.
Interestingly, on this one, actually, I would say with that shot setting the scene there, they're on this estate and there's a lot of people out. There's a whole community aspect going on, and she's now swept along by this much bigger thing, isn't it? that she's involved with. Whereas some of the others that we've looked at, and maybe that Paul Ansell, which we'll look at finally again in reflection, he's on his own more so. Than with this bigger group of the wide community looking at it.
With the worry etched on her face, Shannon's mother appealed for her daughter's return.
Shannon, if you're out there, please, darling, come home. We love you so much. Me and your dad, your brothers, your sisters, everybody loves you. Your dad's missing you so much, Shannon. He's even out looking for you. Please come home, Shannon. If you're out there, come home. If anybody's got my daughter, my beautiful princess daughter, please bring her home safe.
Okay, what do you think then on reflection?
On reflection, again, she's carrying off the impression of like a worried mother really well. She doesn't give anything away. She doesn't give anything extraneous. There's no extra fluff information meant to divert you one way or the other. It's just a direct, straightforward plea, and it keeps it in present tense and it addresses Shannon first. So she does that part really well.
Okay. At the time, I remember quite clearly that there was like a bit of a public backlash. I mean, maybe this is a class thing. Maybe there's some aspect of class involved, because
I think
they're very working class, aren't they? When I say very working class, they're in the poverty end of the line, and they come across as being less educated, a bit rough around the edges. You know, lots of kids from the idea in the media was that she's got lots of kids from lots of different men, and like that. Therefore, is like a stigma attached to her.
It's a judgment of a character, yeah. Whereas it's also coming off the back of Madeleine McCann. And
yes, that's
you've got like very middle class, well educated doctors, well off. You know, girl goes missing in a foreign country, young girl, much younger than Shannon. It's a bigger thing. It's seen differently to this, especially when it comes out. Everything about this comes out. You know, the idea that you could plot this with like family and friends and do this. Is seen differently than whatever the McCanns are going through. But yeah, this came in the...
It's big here as well, because I think part of the McCann factor is that before you might say, well, we could pretend that my daughter's gone missing, but what would that achieve? Whereas post Madeleine, Madeleine's parents became millionaires. They had that fund, and what you can see here in this picture is they're wearing the T-shirts and they had the flyers, and all that printing was done through this. Like, it was like a Find Madeleine fund, but it was a Shannon Matthews fund, and it was. I think they were at the village hall. Like, you know, like there was a little group of people, volunteers, helping to hand out the flyers and print up the stuff. And so they didn't get a lot of money. They got a lot less than the McCanns got, but there was some financial incentive, you know, behind it. Not just the reward, but the idea that you might get this campaign on the go. And, you know, I've always wanted to get myself one of those Find Shannon T-shirts. I should have had one printed for today's episode. But, you know, it was once that became clear as well that they were getting some sort of. I think in this is an image. This is them collecting their shopping. Look, this is actually on this thing. So I'll just see if I can play this.
Shannon, we want you home. Shannon, we want you home. Shannon, we want you home.
With no news of Shannon, local residents staged a march in support. Others were sending money to start a fund for Shannon.
Here we go.
Yep.
Local supermarkets offered Karen free shopping. She and Craig were criticised for filling one trolley with food and the other with beer.
See, we didn't even need to wait for Shannon to be found for that to be like a red flag. That is taking the piss. You know,
for anyone that didn't hear, I'm sure you all heard it, but yeah, they were offered free shopping by a local supermarket, and she filled one trolley with food and one trolley with beer.
Respect the hustle, you know.
Yeah.
But
Shannon Matthews was under the bed the whole time. And this went on, didn't it? It went on for a number of weeks as well. It wasted a lot of police resources, a lot of police time. And after the event, she got imprisoned, I think. You know, she got done for child neglect and perverting the course of justice. And I think she was also charged with kidnapping, it says in the wiki, yeah. And so she was convicted, you know, she went to trial. I think she was given prison, but when she's come out, she's been given a new life, a new, you know, like witness protection, so to speak. Not witness, but you know what I mean, like, yeah. She's
been given a new identity.
I think so, yeah. Oh, no, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe she's just dyed her hair black and is still in the news every now and then. But certainly, I'll tell you who did get an identity is Shannon. Shannon was rehomed and has got her own.
Oh, Shannon identity. It was Shannon that got a new identity. Yeah.
And they were all on camera again.
Karen Matthews.
Yeah. And they're all on camera again here, where this is the uncle who had her kept under the bed, so he managed to make it into the news again, but this time from behind the police table. Yeah.
And keep her there until I phone you. I said I wasn't happy about this, and she then threatened, if I didn't do it, to get 3 lads onto me.
Michael Donovan's 3-page statement was read to detectives by his solicitor.
And I was frightened that if I didn't do it, they would come after me. I said, okay, I'll do it.
And he looks a bit, you know, a bit worse for wear, doesn't he? I don't know if he's, you know, got a history of narcotics abuse, but he certainly had all the Valium in the cupboard and all the Trimazepam and all that. And Karen herself then in the...
How do you guys... That shit's not over the counter, sorry. Sort of like that.
He had a collection of different ones. He had a
opiates,
big,
and it's not that easy to get like Valium and Trimazepam and that.
Yeah,
I have to sign for my Tramadol.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think he had some over the counter stuff and some not over the counter stuff. And actually, they did samples of her hair, and she'd been drugged at Christmas time as well, and other times, like through the hair sample, they were able to ascertain that. So it had been going on. Yeah.
That's what we think, Madeleine. That's one of the theories with Madeleine, isn't it? They were drugging him, keeping him quiet during the night.
It's weird, actually, that for this one, it comes round to the idea that she was one of the better liars. That apart from her behaviour,
Shannon Matthews the musical.
She's under the bed. Ooh, ooh, she's under the bed. Ooh, ooh, Shannon Matthews. She's under the bed. Da, da, da. And then you've got this big feature of the stage show is the bed itself, where she's hidden under, because to show her to the stage, the bed lifts up and you can see her hidden under doing her little song. There was a castle on a cloud. I like to go there in my sleep. That one from
She's burst out from under the bed going, I'm free.
I'm still quite drunk.
Good.
To feel good. Everybody's free. Yeah, and but Karen would have to have a big part in it as well, with her eyes, with the big eyes, the big starey eyes. Karen Matthews, Karen the musical. She was under the bed the whole time. I thought there'd be a lot more comedy that I could draw out from Shannon. Do you know what? I shouldn't say this maybe, but
it's difficult to find humour in the kidnapping and drugging of a small child, isn't it?
Is it?
10-year-old girl.
Is it difficult? Because me and my friends, right, we've got a running joke about Shannon Matthews, and it was at the time when it came out that she was under the bed. I was drinking a lot more at the time, but we found it hilarious. It was hilarious, wasn't it? Everyone in chat, wasn't it hilarious that she was under the bed the whole time? We've got something's knocked. It's a good comment when Steve's been knocked off his chair. Let's have a picture of Shannon. Go on, tell me what's tickled you.
I can't read. My dad listens to these podcasts.
Craig's hat and Karen's fanny. There is a Shannon Matthews the musical. Some of the song titles are brilliant. Can't Work, Won't Work. Right, got you. Yeah. Craig's hat and Karen's fanny, and It Were Nothing to Do With Me. I mean, I tell you what, it was almost comedic as well that they were so belligerent. I don't think that whether you're born into money or not, you're still got the opportunity to behave and polite and what have you. But the belligerence of it all as well, wasn't it? They were. Like you said in this interview with him,
he's very defensive. Yeah, that was.
He's just no. And I suppose because he actually knows he's not thinking too sophisticated, is he? He's certainly not thinking too sophisticated. He's just like, look, they're saying this about me, but fuck them, because she's only under the bed over there.
He is proof that glasses do not automatically make you look intelligent. you have to carry it a bit,
Yeah.
So.
This as well, talking about. Okay, I've forgotten all the questions. I'm talking about the questions that
got off the rails now. We've been going too long.
We're just knocked over 3 hours, so we'll finish off by doing this last bit of Shannon Matthews. Then we'll look at whether Paul Ansell displays any of these funny qualities, and then we'll big up our next episode and just chill a little minute before we knock off, so that everyone feels a little bit decompressed. So what was interesting to me, that was huge as well, is all these TV and media were there. Now, on reflection, they wanted to sell the story. So they paid, they got paid to sell the story, you would think. But this TV crew, the Cutting Edge crew, didn't pay them. They said, we're not paying you, we're BBC. You either do it and you're real, or because people will think you've been paid. So they let this TV crew in. So my question to you as a psychologist is, what kind of people do it, bundle her off, go through all this rigmarole, have all the kerfuffle going on, and then say, why don't you come into our house and spend the next 2 weeks with us, camera crew? Why did she invite this level of scrutiny upon herself?
Yeah. Again. This is the thing that's linked all of these, is just the arrogance and the belief that you can get away with it. For some reason, they thought they'd come up with a perfect scam, and it involved hiding the daughter and pretending that she'd been kidnapped to get a lot of money, and then one day she's recovered. You know, they didn't even possibly think that, like, at the point where they're like, right, it's been long enough now, let's have her recovered. We'll drug her and we'll put her out somewhere, and then we'll happen upon her. Someone will find her. You know, how do you guarantee that? How do you guarantee she's found? How do you guarantee that she's picked up within time? How do you guarantee that she's then not going to say, yeah, I've spent the last month or whatever, being fed
yeah, what happens when she comes back?
Sleep under the bed.
What happens when you find her and collect your reward? Yeah, she just keeps her fucking mouth shut.
There is a level of intelligence where you think, I can manipulate the situation, I can control this, and I'm in command of everything. And you can do it, like Rodney Alcala, who gets away with serial killing for quite a while because he's good at manipulating people. And then you get this. This is the other end of the scale. This is, if nothing else, this is like the dictionary definition of thinking you're smarter than you are. Because how do you end this? How do you end this scam, this scheme? You need to be able to do that. And just sort of being able to pressure her and say, I'm your mum, shut up about it. Well, no, at some point she's going to be 16 or 17 and be like, right, fuck you, I'm going to the papers.
Yeah,
because then not only do you have that worry of, will my daughter stay quiet for the rest of my life, but she's also got that over you now. For the rest of her life, she could go, well, I want the money in the fund.
There was a question that on the estate there was another woman who was a bit more forceful and a bit more like a ringleader when it came to things, and certainly with the campaign she was very much a ringleader. And the question was, is Shannon's mother smart enough to pull this off, or to have suggested it, or did it have to come from a greater puppet master? And the idea was, was this other woman the puppet master? Do you think that Shannon's mom was smart enough, stupid enough to have done this? Do you think that Karen, from everything you've seen of the case,
I think they thought they were smart enough. I mean, look, they've got a computer and he wears glasses. They're obviously smart.
It did work for a bit,
I think they thought they were smart enough. I don't think they're smart enough, but I think they thought they were.
Yeah, and to be honest, it did work for a bit, didn't it? They had people looking for her. They got the free shopping. These people are making a documentary about her. It's just when it got to the end, it needed to work out differently, and it suddenly went pear-shaped when the police found her.
Yeah.
And also, when the guy found her under that bed, his testimony, in the documentaries, is that he went in the property, and I think they'd searched there before, but he went in and he heard Shannon's voice. So, under the bed or not, he was then drawn to the sound of her actual voice. Yeah. I'm under the bed. I'm under the bed. But yeah, he was drawn to, the guy had written. The guy had written a list of. I've got it on here somewhere. I should have time-stamped it.
She's princess. That's all I can say. Oh, see, they're not helping their argument with class, are they?
Oh yeah. And the guy had written a list of things like instructions for Shannon, which was obviously stay under the bed, don't tell anyone. He'd written it out as a list, so that was pretty incriminating. Like a handwritten list of how to take care of Shannon. Step 1, keep under bed. Step 2, drug. Step 3, tell off. It was a bit. Can't find it now, but yeah. The famous Shannon Matthews case. Yeah.
Again, it's just, how do you not consider your daughter's autonomy and the idea that she might actually tell someone about this? Just how do you get? See, at least Stephen McDaniels thought his plan through. At least he knew when the bins were being taken. He was wrong, but he knew when they'd normally be taken. So, there's a level of some planning or opportunistic, and they failed at both. You don't get the opportunistic thing of the Ian Huntley or anything. And you don't get the planning of Rodney Alcala or Stephen McDaniels. You get failures on both counts. They thought about it. They thought this would be a great idea, and then didn't think beyond that.
In chat, the cat Bally, who maybe buy her silence with a 6-pack of beer. And the other thing is they're total it sounds ridiculous.
I think at this time it'd be like Hooch or something, wouldn't it? WKD.
or a couple more tramadol by the time she's like hooked on
Fire silence with a 6-pack of Calpol.
Get her hooked on the old heroin, and then keep providing with the heroin, and then that's no. But what I was going to say, the final figure they were looking for as well, 50 grand, which was a bit more back then, but still, with cost of living and inflation, all that is less. But still, it belies this.
It's
this
still not an amount to
naivety.
sniff at, though, is it?
Yeah,
it's still
it's a good wallop of
chunk.
money, but you can't retire on it, and you're not going to be buying a house with it. Like you're not going to be solving all your problems with 50 grand. It goes quick, and then you're in the same shit, but you've done all this bad stuff. So, like, if you're going to sell yourself down the river and go to prison for it, like, you'd want a bit more of a big chunk of money than 50 grand, I think. So it seemed like a naivety in itself that was their goal. Like, they would do imagine doing all this for 50 grand when you could actually just like work a part-time job for a year, like, save it up. Like, you don't have to, like, this wasn't like life-changing money. Like, someone offered me £1 million for my daughter, or you know what I mean? It was like,
genuinely, they should have stuck to playing the lottery.
Yeah.
If they'd have played the lottery for that long, they might have got a bit more cash.
Well, yeah.
And they could have left Shannon elsewhere.
So
like playing the computer or something,
A naivety. And then what's great as well is when you go on hotel holidays, when you get to a hotel and if you ever have to share a room, but whenever you share a room with someone, you can say, like, I always check under the bed and I'm like, oh, Shannon, where's Shannon? Like, is she under here?